You're watching BBC World News Today with me, Philippa Thomas. Amanda Knox and her former lover returned to court in Italy to hear the verdict in their appeal against convictions for murdering a British student.
Quello che loro dicono.
I'm not who they say I am. The perversion, the violence, the lack of respect for life.
Well, these are our live pictures from inside that courtroom in Perugia, where the Italian and international press has been camped out all day, waiting for the verdict. More trouble for Greece. Students protest on the streets. The government looks set to miss its deficit targets. Also coming up for you in this programme, why South Africa may stop the Dalai Lama from attending Desmond Tutu's birthday celebrations.
It's been a long, cold, lonely winter.
And has the quiet one come out of the shadows? We look at Martin Scorsese's new documentary about the former Beatle, George Harrison.
Here comes the sun.
Hello and welcome. Amanda Knox, the young American woman convicted of the gruesome murder of her British flatmate, will find out in the next 30 minutes or so whether her appeal has been successful. Knox and her former boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, who's also appealing his murder conviction, left prison and arrived at the courthouse in the Italian city of Perugia in the past few minutes. Earlier, Amanda Knox had made a tearful final appeal to the jury, insisting she didn't kill 21-year-old Meredith Kercher. Daniel Sanford reports.
Aged just 24, Amanda Knox today made the speech of her life, a personal plea to a court not to let her spend the next 20 years in prison for a murder she says she didn't commit. This was the last day of her appeal against her conviction for killing her British housemate Meredith Kercher. Her innocence or guilt will be decided by 6 jurors and 2 judges.
Amanda Knox has been in prison for 4 years now. In that time, she has changed from a student into a young woman. The evidence against her has been tested at 2 trials in this ancient courtroom in Perugia.
Her sister and parents were there to hear her emotional plea.
Io non sono quello che loro dicono.
I'm not the person they say I am.
La perversione, la violenza.
Perversion, violence, disrespect for life and for people aren't part of who I am.
E non ho fatto le cose che loro suggeriscono che avrei fatto.
I haven't done what they have suggested I did.
Non ho ucciso, non ho violentato.
I did not kill.
Non ho rubato.
I did not rape. I did not steal. I wasn't there.
Non ero là. Non ero presente a questo crimine.
I wasn't present at this crime.
Io voglio tornare a casa.
I want to go home.
Io voglio tornare alla mia vita.
I want to go back to my life.
Io non voglio essere punita, privata.
I don't want to be punished, deprived of my life for something I didn't do.
Che non ho fatto.
I am innocent.
Perché io sono innocente.
The murder victim was Meredith Kercher, a 21-year-old language student from South London. She'd been found with her throat slashed several times in her bedroom at the house she shared with Amanda Knox. Knox and her new boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, became suspects because of their strange behaviour after the murder and because their stories kept changing. DNA discovered by police at the crime scene on Meredith Kercher's bra clasp appeared to implicate Raffaele Sollecito. DNA on a knife implicated Amanda Knox, but at the appeal the evidence was declared unreliable. The defence teams insisted that the other man convicted of the murder, Rudy Guerra, had acted alone. But today Meredith Kercher's family condemned the way Amanda Knox's relatives have campaigned for her freedom.
Well, we've tried to sort of maintain as sort of low a profile as possible and as much of a dignified silence, but there comes a point where obviously it's difficult for our legal team who work very hard and do a lot of good work out here to be constantly battling against what's essentially a large PR machine.
But for now the campaigning is over. Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were taken back to prison while the judges and jurors considered their fate. Daniel Sanford, BBC News, Perugia.
It's nearly 4 years since Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were jailed, first as suspects, then as convicted killers. Meredith Kircher was killed at the apartment she shared with Knox in Perugia in November 2007. A year later, following a fast-track trial, Rudy Herman Gede, an Ivory Coast national, received a 30-year prison sentence after being convicted of her murder. That sentence was later halved on appeal. Then, in December 2009, Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were also found guilty of murder and sexual violence. The following day, Ms. Knox's family vowed to appeal the conviction. And as we wait for the results of that appeal, let's talk to Nathaniel Rich, an American writer who spent time with Amanda Knox in Perugia while writing about the case from Rolling Stone magazine. He joins me via webcam from California. Nathaniel, you wrote that you found Amanda Knox to be extremely, almost pathetically naive.
Yeah, that's right. She's a girl from Seattle, Washington, the kind of person that might be described by fellow American students as grungy, sort of a neo-hippie, painfully naive and innocent about many things in her life, and the full extent of how innocent and immature she was revealed over the course of the trial, and before that, right after the murder.
So obviously the belief in America, and your belief, is that she was pushed into confessing something she didn't do.
It's very hard to generalize about belief in America. But from what we know about false confessions, and there's been a lot of scholarly work in recent years about this, every hallmark of what goes into bringing about a false confession was apparent in this case. The fact that she was under extreme duress, fatigue, she was threatened, confused, and according to her, she was even physically assaulted, slapped in the back of her head, and she was given incentives to give them information. The confession was not recorded. And so there are a number of other things that will be familiar to criminologists who study this, but there's every sign that the confession was extremely badly done, at least, and that it was a false confession. It's even acknowledged that it was a false confession because the ultimate confession she gave was not that she committed the murder, but that someone who was later revealed not to have a completely perfect alibi was the killer, and that was information that was fed to her by the police.
Nathaniel,
so both sides.
Nathaniel, as you follow the case, what's your expectation about what's going to be the outcome tonight?
I really don't know. I think that the defense's expectation is genuinely that she'll be acquitted, because they believe that the DNA evidence was really the only hard evidence holding her, tying her to the case, and that evidence was shown to be completely unreliable. In Italy, the conventional wisdom is that she'll get a reduction in sentence, which is what happened with Rudy Guede, and that's a way in the Italian system for everybody to, for lack of a better term, save face. She would get out while she's still able to bear a child in about 8 years or 10 years. And yet she would, be convicted, and she wouldn't be, the case wouldn't be thrown out altogether. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. I think the judge is under a lot of pressure, because if he does acquit her fully, he will be, in a sense, going against the judgment of the Supreme Court in the Guede case, which ruled that Guede acted with 2 accomplices, and they were Knox and Sollecito.
Nathaniel Rich, thanks for joining us. And we're just going to show you, our viewers, those live pictures at the courthouse in Perugia. This is where Amanda Knox made that emotional appeal earlier today, saying she's not what she's been painted to be. She's not a killer. She didn't participate in a rape. She asked to be let go to live the rest of her life. And the family of Meredith Kircher also spoke out there today to say they felt their daughter, the victim, had been forgotten. Very, very hard for them to be at the centre of all this international attention. So obviously we'll bring you that result to the appeal as we get it.